welcome to On the Record. In the run-up to the August primary, we're going to introduce you to the candidates you'll be seeing on the ballot. Now, to do that, we're hosting a series of candidate forums right here. Before we begin, let's go over the rules. Each candidate was provided the list of questions, which we'll get to in just a moment. They'll have 1 minute each to answer those questions. Seating arrangements were determined by the order they'll appear on your ballot. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes at the start to introduce themselves and then 2 minutes at the end as well. With that in mind, let's get started. Our guests for this episode are Chris Wright, Jonathan Russell, and Cheryl Perkins, candidates for the 160th Missouri House District. Thank you all three for going on the record with us. Chris, we'll begin with you. 2 minutes. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I don't know if I'll need 2 minutes, but basically I'm just your everyday blue collar type of guy. I really don't like politics a whole lot, but I know politics in general. There's a lot of too much government going on in our lives, and I don't think we need that much government in our lives. And so I decided, I can't complain about government and politics unless I'm willing to step in. So that's what I did. My background's pretty simple. I'm a 24-year military veteran. I own my own business. I build houses, metal buildings, 4 kids, a wife, a Labrador, just a everyday all-American type of guy. And I just love people. I've served people my entire life, and I want to continue serving.
All right, thank you very much. Jonathan, 2 minutes. Introduce yourself to us.
Thank you. Of course, I'm Jonathan Russell. I'm running here in the 160th, and I wanted to run because this community has given so much to me. I dealt with a severe illness when I was younger, and the community rallied around me and helped support my family during that time, and they've given so much, so I want to give back. So in the meantime, since that has happened, I've been working for my family's business and a small business, and again, community supporting our family business. And also, I've worked with Bright Futures in Neosho, helped get it off the ground. I served on the Neosho School Board for 12 years, and I have served on the Neosho Library Board, been involved in Lions Club, as well as helping with the Ronald McDonald House here in Joplin. I am running because I truly believe that this community is very special, and the people of this community are very special. I've been out knocking doors for several months now, visiting with folks on their front porches and finding out what's important to them. And I believe we've got to address property taxes as well as this data center issue, and we'll discuss that more later. But I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, 2 minutes. Introduce yourself to us.
Thanks for having us here, Jeremiah. And I'm Cheryl Perkins. I am the current county assessor. I have been in the courthouse for almost 24 years. January will be 24 years that I've been there. For 10 of those years, I've been the elected assessor. I have fought for many fights that nobody knows about, but the biggest one being when KSN came and put me in the spotlight, put me on the news, and everything went viral from there. But that was when I fought with the State Tax Commission. But we can kind of get to that at the end, but a little bit about me is I live there right there in Neosho. My daughter's in Neosho, my son's in Kansas, my other daughter's in Nixa, another one in Rogers, and we're all right here local, and it's just important to keep everything going good. I think having a good, strong government and a voice in the government and people that want to listen to the citizens is the most important thing to have. So in doing that, that's my biggest goal, is to always listen like I have for the last 23 years, and to always be your voice and do what I can to help the citizens.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank all three of you again for being here. Let's dive into the questions. Chris, we'll start with you. Where do you stand on data center development in Missouri?
Right now, I hate it. The fact that there's no protections against our environment, there's no protections against Liberty Utilities. The amount of water and power that they are going to require, I don't think is worth having all these data centers for your AI and picture storage, and I'm just a hard no on them.
Jonathan, we'll ask you the same question. Where do you stand on data center development in Missouri?
Well, I have publicly called for a pause on the data centers until we can take a very good look at what's going to happen with them. How do we protect our water resources? How do we protect our electricity grid and keep electric rates down? Also, one of the top complaints about what's going on is the lack of transparency. So I think it's very important that we bring transparency back into the process so that the local residents know, first of all, when they're coming. These NDAs that are being signed, people are very upset about, so we've got to stop that. And also, I have called for a state level solution, because local solutions are great and they may solve the immediate problem, but when we're talking about the water table, that extends far beyond the borders of Newton County or the city limits of Joplin. So we've got to have something at a much broader level, and in addition to that, we're looking at zoning on the local level, and we don't want zoning in our counties. So a state level solution would prevent that.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, same question for you. Where do you stand on data center development in Missouri?
I don't really see why we need more. We already have 91 in Missouri. And with that, I think we have enough data centers that we could do a good study on it. We hear the rumors about the water use. We hear the rumors about the blackouts. We hear about, stillborn cattle all over the place. Those things need looked at. And if that is an issue, then we need to look at where we're placing these. And they need to go to the blighted areas where there's nothing around them. But right now, they're getting too close to people, and maybe the other ones are too. I'm not sure of their exact location, but we have one in Newton County. We have one in Springfield already. So we just need to do a study on these bigger ones. The ones we have now are smaller, underground, but we need to be doing some studies on them. We need to pause on them. And I tried to get the commissioners to put in a temporary moratorium, but they weren't willing to do it. So we just have to see what we can get done.
All right, thank you very much. Jonathan, we'll start with you on this question. Should Missouri add restrictions to the usage of artificial intelligence?
So I am for the free market, absolutely, and I'm for free market in the AI realm too. However, I would advocate for solutions or restrictions to make sure that children are protected from anything like that. Doxing cannot be happening, and also you hear of in Webb City, for example, they were making inappropriate images of young women at the high school. So we've got to have restrictions for that. Yes, I do think we need to have some guardrails around AI.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, same question for you. Should Missouri add restrictions to the usage of artificial intelligence?
Absolutely, there needs to be restrictions on it. AI is a fun deal to go on and look up something real quick. Is it true or not? We don't know. You got to take your chances on anything you search on the web, but it needs restrictions. These kids are going to be using it, and they're just going to be copying down whatever it says. They're not going to be learning anything because they're using AI for everything. So they need to still learn how to do their studies, look things up, and know how to do the process without AI putting in the influence. And there's a lot of scams going on with it. It needs a block on it before too many people get hurt by it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Chris, same question for you. Should Missouri add restrictions to the usage of artificial intelligence?
Absolutely. There are so many things out there that are dangerous. There are a lot of good things that AI could be used for, but when it comes to protecting our children, that takes first and foremost in my mind. We look what social media has done. Our kids are not proficient reading, writing, and arithmetic. AI is going to make that even worse. So I absolutely agree with both of them that we've got to have restrictions.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, we'll start with you for question number 3. Where do you stand on the video slot machines that have appeared in gas stations, bars, and other places, and the Attorney General's efforts in regards to them?
I am 100% behind the Attorney General. They do need stopped. They do need removed. We have a store not far from the courthouse, and occasionally I'll stop in there after work, and you see a line in those machines, everybody's sitting there, and they're just wasting what little money they have. These people, they have to walk there, they don't have vehicles, they don't really have any place to stay, but they're there playing those machines. And I asked the cashier, I said, do they really win anything? She goes, oh yeah, one guy won $33 on it. I'm like, and they're wasting what little bit of money they have on these machines? So yeah, they need to be gone. If people want to gamble, they need to go to the casinos, and Missouri doesn't have the casinos for a reason. So they need to find a way to get over to the ones that are mandated and play on those, and not in the gas station where the kids can get a hold of them too.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Chris, we'll ask you the same question. Where do you stand on the video slot machines that have appeared in gas stations, bars, and other places, and the Attorney General's efforts in regards to them?
I look at it in this aspect. If they are going and being adults and not bothering anybody, they're adults. I don't have a problem with it. It's no different than buying a lottery ticket. It's no different than them. It's their money. Do I agree with it? No. But you can't put these restrictions on people making their own free choices. That's why we live in America. We live in the land of freedom. Now, if it starts getting to where they're committing crimes, they're starting to violate other people's rights, then I do have issues with those. But if they're being left alone and leaving people alone, I don't have an issue with them.
Thank you very much, sir. Jonathan, same question for you. Where do you stand on the video slot machines that have appeared in gas station, bars, and other places, and the Attorney General's efforts in regards to them?
I support the Attorney General's efforts. I've said all along, if they are illegal, the law should be enforced. I don't like that we have laws on the books right now that are just being turned a blind eye to. So I appreciate that Attorney General Hanaway is enforcing the laws, and we need to continue to do that fight.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Chris, we'll start with you on this question. Property tax relief was a widely discussed legislative topic this past session that did not make it to the finish line. Should something be done at the state level on property taxes? And if so, what does that look like to you?
Yes, you know, the fact that you can pay off your vehicle, your home, and still lose it to the government because of property taxes is wrong. Now, I know property taxes do support a lot of local agencies, schools, whatever. I believe at the state level we have to find a different way to fund, you know, the schools, the library, the ambulance through legislation. I mean, the answer is always legislation. That's the only thing we can do as people who are running for state rep is introduce bills. And I just think it's wrong whenever people can lose their property to the government whenever they've already paid for it.
Thank you very much, sir. Jonathan, same question for you. Property tax relief was a widely discussed legislative topic this past session that did not make it to the finish line. Should something be done at the state level on property taxes? And if so, what does that look like to you?
Absolutely. Well, I've actually called for a freeze for property taxes for your primary residence. So that means the house that you own right now, we currently have a freeze for seniors. So once you get to a certain age, you can freeze your primary property tax so that it stays the same from this point on. And I've called for that for everybody else. The working class families don't need the unknown or the rising property taxes year over year that continue to add to the burden that they have with everything else going up as well, including food and gasoline. So they need to have a freeze put in so that it only goes up when they sell and buy a new property. And that is very different than a 5% cap where it could go up 5% per year. They need the stability and to know that it's never going to go up ever again till they sell it. Now that doesn't stop revenue growth because commercial properties and rentals and whatnot would continue to go up.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, we'll ask you the same question. Property tax relief was a widely discussed legislative topic this past session that did not make it to the finish line. Should something be done at the state level on property taxes? And if so, what does that look like to you?
Yes, it does need done at the state level, and that is the main reason I'm running, because that is what I have been dealing with for the last few years, and I've got ideas on how to fix it, and Representative Taylor has a good plan started, and I'd like to get up there and help them get that finished and get that onto the floor and get it moved into place. And there is ways of doing it that doesn't hurt the taxpayer and it doesn't hurt the entities. I've seen how to do it. I've dealt with the school districts on how to do it, the financial people of it, and it can be done. We just got to get it in place.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Jonathan, we'll start with you on our next question. The budget is expected to be a major focus in the upcoming session. What are your thoughts on the best practice for crafting Missouri's budget?
Well, currently every year when they go back to the drawing board, they give every department their base, and their base is exactly what they got last year. They never go back and reevaluate and say, did the money we gave them last year effectively solve any problems or go to the effective good use? So I say we go to a zero-based budgeting where every year they start from nothing again and have to rebuild the budget so that they're not starting from the same amount that they got last year. The only way to slow growth and to stop excessive wasteful spending is to go to zero-based. And also the Constitution actually allows us to go to a biannual budget, which some other states actually do. And the studies have shown that the growth of revenue or the growth of spending actually is slower in those states. And it would give those departments more stability in knowing how much they're going to have for those 2 years.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, next, same question for you. The budget is expected to be a major focus in the upcoming session. What are your thoughts on the best practice for crafting Missouri's budget?
I think the budget needs to be looked at, and every department needs to be looked at to see where cuts can be made. A lot of times they just go through, they just keep rolling along and everything goes on. They're like, well, it's the way it's been. But some of those departments are probably not as necessary as they think or need as many people. I mean, I know one department that needs a cut back on it, and I'll be glad to discuss that when I get there. But there's probably other departments that are the same way. Things need looked at, and like you said, you got to get it approved every year. But explain why. Why do you need all of these essential people? Why do you have to have so many different secretaries and everything in every department? That needs looked at as to where those cuts can be slimmed down.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Chris, same question for you. The budget is expected to be a major focus in the upcoming session. What are your thoughts on the best practice for crafting Missouri's budget?
The budget needs to be a major focus. It should be focused from years ago. Our budget's doubled in the last 7 years. About 7 years ago, we were around $20 billion, and we have a $50 billion budget. And we have Republicans who think that's a great budget, and they're all proud of themselves for passing it, but that's not a conservative Republican type of budget. 3 years ago, I ran on a state race, and one of the things I talked about is like what Jonathan had mentioned, absolutely go to a zero-based budget, make everybody go back to zero, and prove to the people who are in charge of crafting the budget why they need our money, our taxpayer money. The problem in government is, and especially Missouri, we've got a spending problem, is we've just kept giving them money. Hey, we had this much last year, let's just make it the same, and that's just wrong.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheryl, last question. We'll begin with you. Should Missouri go back to a presidential preference primary?
Yes. I think we should go back to the presidential preference primary simply because in '24 we did a caucus, and there was a lot of people that were very upset about that because they didn't know about the caucus. They couldn't participate in the caucus, so they felt like they had no say at all in our president. To get in the caucus, it's pretty tough because it's limited people, and you pretty much know somebody in the group to get in there. So going back to the presidential primary, I feel, is the easiest way for everybody to have a voice and not just a selected few.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Chris, same question for you. Should Missouri go back to a presidential preference primary?
Absolutely, this is a no-brainer. Whenever we had the caucus, like Cheryl was saying, in 2024, you had very limited number of people that could go. Whenever you have a primary, like what we used to have and what we should go back to, people have literally from, I think, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to cast their vote. Most people work. Most people have jobs. Most people have responsibilities. They need that 12-hour window to cast their vote. And last time I checked, there's a lot of soldiers who died to give people the right to vote if they are an American, and they should be able to exercise that right.
Thank you very much, sir. Jonathan, we'll finish up with you. Should Missouri go back to a presidential preference primary?
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I've participated in the caucuses before myself as a member of the Republican Central Committee. It is a very confusing process, even for those of us that are on the committee. So I would say absolutely we need to go back to that, allow everybody to have a voice. We are very adamant about supporting our elections throughout the state and making sure that they're secure. And as long as they're secure, I'm all for letting everybody go vote.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank all three of you for joining us and taking our questions. That does end the question portion of this. But as promised, we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to wrap up before the end. Cheryl, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you for having us again. It's nice to be able to get together and for us to share our ideas when we get to the Capitol. My main focus on going, like I said, was the tax reform. I was late getting into the run, and that was mainly because of finances. You know, the pay is going to be substantially less than what I make now. I had to find a way to supplement that. And one of the last representative that I talked to, many of them had called me, say, we need you up here, you've got to come up here. He explained to me how he did it, and it worked for me. So I was able to get into the race. Unfortunately for these guys, I felt bad because I came in late, but it was still, you know, open filing. But after I had been on the news in Seneca and all of the information came out about what the State Tax Commission was doing to all of the assessors across the state, it became pretty much like a wildfire. You guys were, KSN was all over the state at that point. And I had people calling from Springfield and St. Louis and everything that, hey, I just seen you on the news. And from that, state senators and representatives started asking me to come to the Capitol. They said, can you come up here and testify? Can you come tell us what is going on with our assessors? Can you come up here and help us figure out a solution? So I would go up to those, and through that, I met quite a few people and helped them come up with different ideas on how to fix the issue. From that point on, they're just like, we really need you to come up to the Capitol. We need you to come up here. I'm like, at first I was kind of hesitant, but they're like, we need you here. You will fight for the people. You've got a backbone. We need you up here. And the current assessor, who is a representative, terms out this year. He's the one who finally got me to agree to come. So if I get everybody's vote, I will be going.
Thank you, ma'am. Jonathan, again, 2 minutes, closing statement.
Well, I'm not running to represent any elected officials. I'm running to represent the folks in Newton County. I care so much about this county. They've given so much to my family as a small business family, that they've supported us. They've helped me out whenever I was in crisis, and it means so much to me. And I have spent the last few months going out door to door, talking to folks on their front porch, talking to them across from their dining room tables, talking to them in their driveways, and just visiting with them and finding out what is on their mind. And the top issue that they're asking me about is freezing property taxes. That's why I have come out fully in support of getting them frozen for everybody. It's so very important. And also, on top of all that, I just really deeply care about this county. I care about the folks here. That's one of the reasons I've went out to meet with them. I've always said you can't represent people that you've never met, and it's so very important for me to get out there and talk to them. So I would I would really appreciate everybody's vote on August 4th.
Thank you very much, sir. Chris, we'll end with you. 2 minutes for closing thoughts.
Oh man, where do I begin? I'll start off, the reason why I got into politics was back in 2020 when the military was issuing these COVID mandates. They came down on me. They said, hey, you're going to get the shot. I said, I'm not going to get the shot. And what I ended up having to do is basically fight against the federal government on my own. And what really made me mad is, where was my representation? Where was my leadership in the state, in the county, sticking up for me? And so that's what got me involved in politics. And, I take that same attitude with me. I'm here to fight for the little guy. My biggest issue with everything that's going on are the utility rates. The biggest one being Liberty. I think about the elderly group that are on a fixed income, that every time there's a 5, 10, 15, 20% rate increase, their income's not going up. So what are they doing? They're having to choose medicine, food, over electricity, or vice versa. And again, to me, that's wrong. And I don't feel like there's enough of a fight going against the utility companies up in Jeff City. one of the other things that I would like to say, you know, I want to thank Cheryl and Jonathan. It's been a very pleasant, not a mudslinging type of race. So I do really appreciate having that from you, because there's nothing more I can't stand than mudslinging. I mean, everybody that's getting these mailers in the mail, it's just gotten ridiculous. So I do want to say I appreciate you guys for just running on yourselves and not throwing mud. I appreciate you having us here. People need to know who their candidates are, and the most important thing I'm going to say is Jesus is King.
All right, again, I want to thank all three of you for taking time out of your schedules to be here with us. That does conclude this forum. Again, Chris Wright, Jonathan Russell, Cheryl Perkins, they will be the candidates appearing on the ballot in the 160th District of the Missouri House of Representatives. Again, thank you all for going on the record with us.